Well, good afternoon, Richard. How are you?
I'm very well, thanks, Emma. How are
you? Very good, thank you. Very good. Thank you so much for joining us today. Just to throw a little bit of a spotlight on yourself, your role at Royds, Withy King. If you could just let us know a little bit about that.
Yeah, sure. So I'm a partner in the employment law team at Royds, Withy King. I've been there for about 20 years now, nearly 21 years. And I usually say that I sort of head up the team in the Bath office, but we haven't really been in the office for the best part of a year. So heading up the Bath team, where we're all based from home at the moment. And our client base really in the employment team is mostly employer based. So we support businesses sort of across the whole range of employment law issues, but we also work with individuals as well, to a slightly lesser extent. So yeah, it's really the whole range of employment, HR, and immigration work that we do.
And what's it been like working from home and managing the team? Has it been a challenge, or has it seemed to run quite smoothly?
I think it's run pretty smoothly. The IT has held up really well, which was great because we'd not spent lots of time working from home before. We used to do it occasionally, so that held up brilliantly. So I'm really grateful to our IT department for that. I think as a team, we're a sort of there's about a dozen of us just in the Bath office, and our employment team as a whole is about 30. I think from the start wanted to make sure we were talking to each other all the time. So in my team, for example, we have sort of a twice weekly teams catch up where we can just discuss whatever we want, mostly business issues. Then every 2 or 3 weeks we have a social catch up, just for half an hour or an hour on a Wednesday evening, just to see how things are going. You get to see where everybody lives, which you wouldn't normally see. But yeah, so that's just really keeping in touch and talking a lot I think it's helped us. I think it helped us through.
Yeah, great. So I think it is actually. I think the importance of communication and that engagement, from sort of employees, especially when they're working at home, is so important from a business point of view, but also important from their point of view as well, isn't it? So they don't feel sort of left at all in any way.
And we've discussed as we've gone along, do we want to carry on having the same number of sort of catch-ups that we have, and everybody wants to, because they're really enjoying talking obviously about work, but also just socially,
yeah, of course,
keeping in touch.
And I bet you've been enormously busy, haven't you? I mean, obviously, you look at the last 12 months, and finance and HR have been absolutely the driving forces in business, based on obviously all these changes in sort of policies and legislation that have been coming at us, and that we've had to react enormously quickly to. Have you been, as sort of employment, been massively busy at Royds, Withy King?
Yeah, I mean, the 12 months. I mean, we're almost bang on, aren't we? 12 months from lockdown, and the term furlough being sort of announced and coined as an employment law phrase. And I guess, yeah, from that point onwards, it went a bit crazy for quite a while. It was a strange time for employment lawyers because you were having to advise clients on law that didn't exist at the time. So you were just getting guidance from the government, which changed on a daily or a weekly basis and often contradicted itself.
Yeah.
You were having to support and advise and guide clients on what does furlough mean, the job retention scheme, what's it going to look like. And so it was a challenge. It was actually, interesting from an employment law perspective, but it was difficult and challenging supporting clients. So for several months, whilst we got to grips with that, and there was different legislation on holiday and furlough, and statutory sick pay, all those things were being thrown at us all the time. It was really, really busy.
Yeah, it was so great, wasn't it? I mean, when you think of, gosh, even sort of 13, 14 months ago, if we'd have said furlough, I can remember when the first word came out and I was thinking, oh my gosh, Google it. What does it mean? None of us had a clue, did we? And then it's just changed, and it really has been keeping up with it. And I think the thing is that, the government have been great in introducing all these different schemes, but it's then the questions that come after it in terms of, as you said, what does that mean for holiday? And I can remember in the first 3 months, can people accrue holiday? Can they not accrue holiday? Can they take it whilst they're on furlough? All these questions that nobody really had any answers to.
Yeah, we're sort of seeing the tail end of that now as people are, well, hopefully, restrictions are eased and we're on the roadmap out. You've got lots of businesses with lots and lots of holiday, which has been accrued that people haven't taken. Yeah. So actually balancing that is quite challenging. If you've got a lot of people with a lot of time off that they're entitled to, that can have an effect on supporting clients for the next 6 months.
How have you, what sort of, if you sort of look at it now over the last 12 months, you know, and looking at the sort of the clients, how have clients managed? How have they found the last 12 months? Has it been challenging, or have they found sort of pockets of opportunity which have allowed them to boom?
Yeah, I think we do have a quite a strong client base in the leisure and hospitality sector, and so obviously after the initial furlough, sort of when we got to grips with that, a lot of those businesses have effectively hibernated for a period of time, and many of them still so. So for those clients, it's been a challenge, and there hasn't been anything realistically that they can really do other than survive through the period of time, and then hopefully there's a big pent-up demand, as I think the Bank of England is suggesting that there may be, which will see things bounce back hopefully as quickly as possible. So some of our client base has had real challenges. We've got as you know, we're very strong in the health and social care sector, and clearly you couldn't furlough all your employees in social care, partly because you had to do the work, and partly because actually there are restrictions on furloughing staff in the social care sector anyway. So they've been a sector under particular pressure and challenges, right from the beginning. Well, prior to COVID, obviously they were under a lot of pressure. That's continued during COVID, and will carry on. And there's actually there's a Supreme Court case coming out on Friday that may have a big impact on the social care sector as well.
Oh, right.
So that's been a sector where we've had a lot of work trying to support clients on issues that are getting ever more complicated and putting ever more pressure on them. So yeah, it's been a bit of a sort of mixed bag. Some areas have been a bit quieter, and some have been really busy.
Yeah, I think this is it actually. It really does depend on the sectors that you're working within. And as you said, the leisure and hospitality, they've had no choice, have they? They've been, it's sort of so heavily governed throughout this, throughout the last 12 months, that they haven't been able to even sort of, have those pockets of opportunity. And I, absolutely take my hats off to those, all of those businesses that have kept going through with takeouts or, coming up with innovative ways. But I also believe that's what I've heard that as well. I've heard that this year is going to be a tale of three. The first, 4 months is going to be very much sort of coming out of lockdown slowly. Then that sort of second 4 months is going to be the sort of stability and leveling off, and obviously we've got to look at the kids being off of school again, so it's going to be a slow transition. But they are saying, and I have heard this on numerous occasions now, that the last 4 months, I mean, I've even heard the word euphoria, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, we need a bit of that, don't we? But that it's going to be very much oh my goodness, all systems go, and that we need that for ourselves, but the economy needs it as well, that confidence in the market.
Yeah, it's both, isn't it? It's a social and a personal thing that people need. People are sort of really craving the opportunity to get back to normal life, see their friends, go out, socialise. But yeah, from a business, and that directly feeds in hopefully to the economic position where people will want to do. I mean, a lot of people obviously have had a lot of challenges in terms of redundancies or pay cuts. A lot of people haven't had that in the same way, and therefore have been saving money during lockdown that otherwise they would have spent. So hopefully a lot of that will feed straight back into the economy as soon as they can. And you can kind of already see it a little bit, even though we haven't quite come out of lockdown yet. People are perhaps already starting to, from a social point of view, do things that perhaps they weren't doing a little while ago, and kind of understand why people are really keen to do that. So maybe that's an indication that in the next few months, maybe mid-June, when hopefully things are almost back to normal, there will be a big change.
Yeah, definitely.
And those sectors that have been under real pressure will hopefully thrive again really quickly.
I mean, I think they always say, don't they, sort of barometers of the economy. I mean, recruitment is one of the barometers of the economy, as is property as well. And we've noticed since Boris's announcement, there is confidence. People are now starting to look forward. They don't want to look back. They don't want to dwell over the last 12 months. They want to think, actually, how does the next 12 months look? What do I need to do? How does the business look? And I think that's actually a question I wanted to ask yourself, probably from both Royds' perspective, but also from the clients that you're talking to. Obviously business is not like the recession 9-10 years ago, with the financial crash. It's nothing like that, because everything, the whole world stopped back in March. It wasn't like it was sort of carrying on in different sort of pockets and sectors were being affected. The whole thing just came to an absolute grinding halt very quickly. from a business point of view, are businesses looking, or do you think businesses will look very differently than they did 12 to 18 months ago in terms of their structure, in terms of the talent pools that they need to moving forward now? If you had to do a comparison of both, what are businesses and sort of leaders, owners saying? Are they changing the way their business looks?
Well, I mean, probably a good example is sort of our real estate team. So we've got a strong sort of real estate practice in the firm, and there's lots of they've already started to see an improvement and an increase with investment starting to be released, whereas it had paused for quite a period of time during lockdown. And so I guess it's focusing on the areas where that investment is likely to be. So some of those areas may be non-COVID related. So renewable energy is a sector where we're likely to see, we think, greater investment for the next 12 months and beyond. And then there's other areas such as repurposing of retail accommodation. What's that going to look like? That will throw up opportunities as the high street changes quicker than it otherwise would have done. The co-working, sort of flexible working spaces. So a lot of businesses will keep either the same office space as they had before, or they will look to change it or take less, or use it in a different way. And lots of people will work remotely, but there'll be that hybrid working arrangements that employers are having to get to grips with. So lots of clients have already thought about that and will continue to, but that does throw up opportunities, for businesses, for landlords, to think about what they're going to do moving forward. So yeah, real estate's probably a good example. Some of those are COVID related things, and some of them I think would have happened anyway, but there's definitely opportunities out there for growth.
Yeah, and I suppose you look at the sort of the domestic market, obviously the stamp duty being extended. I mean, that's going to give the economy a boost. And obviously now, before we were all looking at, my gosh, huge deposits to buy new properties, but for first time buyers now, that the 5% up to 600,000, I mean, that's going to be a huge incentive, and it is going to just keep those wheels in motion, aren't they? It's going to keep the momentum going.
Yeah, and I guess 12 months ago, we didn't want to look back too much, but the outlook into lockdown was that probably the residential property market would be hugely affected. But then, of course, with the stamp duty holiday, which has now obviously recently been extended again, our residential property team have been busier than they've ever been before. I've barely spoken to the partner who heads up our residential property team in Bath, who I usually speak to regularly, just because they've been so busy. And I think that's likely to continue. So business planning was a bit of a challenge, looking at areas that you thought were going to be impacted when actually they haven't been impacted in the same way. But yeah, hopefully that does mean that, as you say, the property market and just the wheels of the economy generally will keep going whilst we get through the next 6 to 12 months.
Absolutely. I think that it's always, they always say, whether it's recession, there's always pockets of opportunity, and it's just, there will be sectors that will be enormously busy and those that will feel it. But I think the thing is, collectively, if you have one lead, it will support the other and we will come out of it eventually.